Hey, Cheri, how you doing?
Oh, wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Just loving life over here. Is your man
Yes,
with you?
he is. He's
Yes,
here.
yes. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing very well. How's it going?
Doing well, enjoying life.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, a lot of people out there are really panic stricken, and the thing we wanted is just kind of stay calm and look for the opportunity and be in a responsive state instead of a reactive state.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
right.
Yeah, definitely
Awesome.
seeing it each and every day, the fear and anxiety out there. So,
No
You'll
doubt.
have to excuse me, Brian. I'm eating lunch a little later than expected, so if you hear me kind of chopping, I
That's okay.
apologize.
No, I do that all the time. I
It
eat right
is
at my
what it is.
desk, so no worries. No worries.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, if we had video on, you'd see I have a nice dress shirt, but I'm in my sweatpants on the bottom. So
That's me. Like,
you do a home-based business, right?
that's the deal, man. Anytime you see me
that's
on a
what
Zoom,
I do for Zooms. I
that's
try to
the
make my
deal.
upper body look cute, and then the rest of me like whatever.
That's the deal. That's the deal. So awesome, guys. Well, I wanted to grab this time. I appreciate you jumping on. I wanted to just dig quite a bit deeper, actually, into what makes you guys tick and kind of where you're coming from and where you want to go. So
Absolutely.
if you're cool, I'd like to sort of just kind of get your story about, where you've been, both of your careers, what you've been going through, kids, things of that nature, and just kind of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, since Cheri's eating, I'll kind of
There you go.
fill in the gap a little bit,
Maybe I'll
give
be
it some
done
time to finish. But I guess probably a little bit more in the more immediate sense. Our story, we met, a few years ago, probably about I think 5 years ago now, and been married for about 4. We've got 4 kids now. But I don't know if you know very much about our story. Cheri and I kind of had some challenging experiences about 2.5 to 3 years ago when we had 3 kids at the time. Cheri had an ectopic pregnancy. And
What does that mean? I don't know that word.
so she had basically an implantation in her ovary that began to grow to the point that it burst her ovary.
Oh
So
my gosh.
rather than a fertilized egg moving down the fallopian tubes, which is what normally happens, every once in a while it will implant itself in different areas that
Oh
Can I
wow.
get stuff?
Gotcha.
right,
Makes
it
sense.
gets
Okay.
stuck. So yeah, it actually burst her ovary and she was bleeding internally. We didn't even know it. So
Oh wow.
she was having some abdominal pains. We went to our primary care here in town. She ran a couple of tests and something wasn't quite right. That was actually when we found out she was pregnant. For the first time with this one. But she said, I wanted to run a couple more tests. We went to the emergency room, which is about 20 minutes from here, and they did a sonogram, kind of let us go on our way, and then called us back after about 15, 20 minutes and said, you need to come back to the emergency room immediately.
Wow.
Something's going on. So we came back. We figured something was up already. But we spent maybe another 30 minutes in the emergency room, and they were rushing her to the ER at that point. So thankfully she was able to, the doctor was able to recover that ovary, repair it, but she was only about an hour or 2 away from dying, bleeding
Oh
out
my
internally.
goodness.
Right.
Wow.
It was really, really intense time, but she made it out. She was alive and everything, which was great. But we started having some financial challenges because the medical bills. Our boys had a couple of surgeries right before that, and kind of on the path that we were on, based on the income I had at the time, we were kind of wondering what our long-term future was going to look like. So, ironically enough, around that time, we were presented with an opportunity from actually someone within the family for me to switch careers, go into the wind turbine industry, and potentially double my income.
Yeah, you're in sales over there, right?
Actually, I'm not with them anymore. I backed out of that situation. It turned out really, really bad. It wasn't making the money I was supposed to. The medical insurance.
Referring to is Midlow Contracting. So he's a firefighter full time.
Yeah. I'm firefighter full time now, and I've been with Midlow Contracting for about 2 years.
Okay.
So yeah, we just do general contracting for residential, commercial. So.
Yeah, he's a project manager. So basically, he gets the customer and kind of sees it out. He's not on the labor end of it.
Right.
Yeah, I have a construction company, so you're like a project manager, PM.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, so you're a full-time firefighter, which allows you a lot of time to do some other things, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
Yeah,
cool,
we have
very
24 on and 48 off, and even when I'm on duty, I can do some stuff. But
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of our story there, but
well, Cheri, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, thanks, me too. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
It made the next day much better.
Very cool. What about you, Cheri? What's sort of been your background?
So I initially went to school for radiology, and got married while I was in college, and very quickly found out we were expecting our first. So I ended up actually dropping out and being a full-time mom. And later on down the road, divorce, remarriage, yada, 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 life happens. I ended up becoming a fitness instructor, which is, I still am. So I'm a fitness instructor now. And we also homeschool. I homeschool our two oldest boys.
Wow.
And then the two little ones, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with them. Right now, just keeping them alive is our goal for every day.
Right.
But, yeah, that's me. And now Vive, of course, which I'm in love with. So. Yeah,
no, it's amazing how much in harmony that business model is right now with what's going on. It's going absolutely bonkers crazy. So.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It was insane because I got in just right before the COVID-19 thing really hit hard. So, and of course, I'm not able to work at the gym anymore. So that income was gone. Scott's income with Midlow Contracting is basically gone. So it all kind of fell in place right at a really good time.
Yeah, and I know from the other day you also expressed interest in possibly working with us, so that's why I wanted to kind of take a deeper dive on where you're at. So, what are some of your goals? What are you guys looking to do?
So I guess financially, our short-term goal, Cheri's actually almost going to meet her 6-month goal with Vive. Here pretty soon, she'll probably hit that goal before the 6-month time frame comes up. But something that was a little more long-term was, when I came back to the fire service after we had gone through everything that was so challenging for us, and there was a time period where I didn't have a job at all, no income whatsoever. But we went within a 1.5 to 2 year time frame from that to making more money than we ever made in our entire life. So, it's certainly not millions a month by any standard, but we're wanting to double that within the next 5 years. So that's a little bit more of our medium-term goal. Personally, at least on a personal relationship level, we never went on a honeymoon. Whenever we got married. So, we've always talked about wanting to go to Santorini, Greece. So, that's something that we want to do within the next 3 to 5 years for sure. So, yeah. So that's what we're working towards.
Very cool. So let me ask you, if you don't mind me asking, with everything you guys got going on, what are you currently at for monthly income?
It's kind of hard to say right this second. Because
just loosely speaking, I'm just looking for, is it 5K, 20K, 100K?
Norm is so monthly. I don't really know because with the contracting, it's kind of, you never know when you're going to get a paycheck.
Sure.
Annual is around a little over 100.
Okay. So is there like a range, like when contracting kicks in, you make an extra like X amount or something?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in a slow season, but we're coming up on storm season. A lot of what we do is, insurance claims through roofs.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're able to, once storm season hits, we get really, really busy. But, too, a lot of times, at least around this time of year or a little bit before that, people are still recovering from Christmas. So they don't have a lot of flexible income to do sort of interior projects or anything like that. And, of course, right now it's kind of put on hold because a lot of people don't know what's going to happen with their pocketbook. So they're kind of cinching that up and tightening that up a little bit. So
well, make sure you guys are reaching out to people with that tax audit too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. That's our latest tool in the toolbox, and like I said, I think we're getting about 15K back. I know Whitney got 40K. So
Right.
that might be a way for you guys to help free up some money for those projects.
Yeah, I need to get her to audit ours. We've already gotten our refund and everything back, but I need to get her to audit.
Would you guys? Oh, okay, gotcha. Perfect.
Yeah.
So you guys, it sounds like you're around. Sounds like you're around like maybe 8 to 12K, depending, huh? A month.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
Some months with Midlow, he might make 20 or 30,000, but then he may not have another paycheck for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
So it just
Gotcha. And I know you said you're looking to maybe double that over the next 5 years. So let me ask you a different question. Let's say we would to work together in the content that we teach here. If I could snap my fingers, if I could wave a magic wand, in order to live life like you guys want or dream about, what would you like to be earning per month?
To earn per month?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I mean, 20 would be nice. But even typical higher than that,
I'm thinking between 500,000 and $1 million a month.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's funny? Scott, I hear you kind of nervously laughing, like that's like almost like that's an inconceivable notion.
No, actually, it's not inconceivable because that's a lofty goal I've had for a long time. But to make it short, I don't want to sell myself short, but I do want to chunk things down into smaller bite-sized chunks, so that you're not overwhelming yourself. But certainly, I think the potential is there for sure.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, you have the same potential as Warren Buffett does. Nobody's born with any more or less potential. It's just awareness. So Cheri, let me ask you this. Scott had said that you're going to hit your 6-month goal in Vive.
Yeah.
What was that?
I should say 500 a month.
Okay. So here's how this works, right? So you set a goal based on what you thought you could achieve.
Uh-huh.
And the reason you did that is because people don't like to not hit their goals. They don't even know what a goal is.
Right.
So what happens is we end up setting mediocre goals. Now, what also happens is if you set a goal of 500 a month, your subconscious mind is going to track towards 500 a month. If you set a goal of 50,000 a month, your subconscious will track towards that.
Right.
It's only your limited beliefs that would get in the way in the energy flow.
Absolutely.
But Whitney's tracking along pretty good.
She is.
But what's the difference? The only difference is mindset. It's not ability.
Right.
It's not anything other than belief systems. That's all it is. Same industry, same company, same everything.
Right.
It's just different awareness. And it's not good or bad either. It just is, it just depends what you want. So if you want to get to 500K a month, you can. But the first thing comes decision.
Right.
And you can't be worried about how am I going to do that, because if you knew how, you'd already be there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And once we start to play around with this stuff, it becomes very, very simple, to be honest with you. Well, let me ask this. Do you guys, is anything else going on? I mean, everybody's healthy. Any other pain points in your life other than, it sounds like everything's going pretty good. And it's just really, if we could help you get to higher levels of income, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think we are actually more than incredibly blessed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot for us to be grateful for.
Yeah,
for sure.
Awesome.
As far as health is concerned, I guess maybe the only potential issue is Cheri has a bit of an autoimmune disorder that from time to time will flare up, and obviously it's a concern right now. But certainly not letting that stop us or get in the way. But
is that a thyroid condition?
No, I have lupus.
Okay. There's a book that you should get. My ex-wife wrote it. And so she had an autoimmune condition, which they told her was a disease. And it was a thyroid condition that she was taking medication for. And then we started training together in this content. She still works with me. We're still really good friends. She started training together this content. She cured herself of an autoimmune disease.
Oh, that's really awesome.
Now, if she can do it, anybody can do it. It's just a matter of, I'm not saying she's got tremendous willpower, but she wrote a book called Magnetic Love.
Okay.
You should go to Amazon. She described that story. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, but she describes that part of what she did. And the mind controls the body. So if the doctors tell you have a disease and you need these meds for the rest of your life, you tend to believe it. That's not necessarily the case.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, I'm not telling you to drop your meds. I'm not a doctor, but I am telling you that the mind controls the body, not the other way around.
Right. Well, and I'm not on any medications right now because I didn't want to put myself in that position.
Good.
And it's manageable enough where I may have to kind of take a day off once in a while and just rest, but other than that, I can deal.
Good.
Yeah, I can handle it.
Yeah, there's another book I want you to get too, specifically for this. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy.
Okay.
And specifically towards what we're talking about here. Those two are going to open your eyes in a big way about what is possible, what is real, and what you can do with your mind-body connection.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
And that's by who? Joseph who?
Dr. Joseph Murphy. It's one of the top 10 books I recommend. I read it usually at least once a year. I listen to it and read it. And it's not just, it's about everything. It's about understanding your subconscious mind at a higher level.
Nice.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're actually trying to go through Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill right now. So, obviously he talks about that a lot early on. So yeah, mindset's huge.
Oh, it's everything. 95% of all achievement is mindset.
Right.
Right. You think, there's about 140 million network marketers globally, and the average income is like $500. But then how come some people get to 7 figures a year?
Right.
Same industry, same everything, right? So it's all mindset.
Absolutely.
So Think and Grow Rich is an excellent book to study. It's funny the way you said we're trying to go through it.
That's true. Yeah, you cue into language pretty well.
Well, language is everything. Both Jesus and Hitler only used the power of the word to create. One was very constructive and one was very destructive.
Absolutely.
But
You're right.
Words are energy. It's just like electricity. It's no different. It's frequencies. And if I was speaking Chinese right now, you wouldn't even understand what I'm saying. It's on a different frequency. Right. So the power of the word is everything. What you're telling yourself matters at a big level. Steve Jobs was a visionary. His internal language was different than most people's.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of my mentors from Star Wars, his name is Yoda. He said, do or do not. There is no such thing as try.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And he's right. There is no such thing as try. It's a word that we made up. You either do something or you don't.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. Well, let me ask you this, guys. Let's just call it right in the middle. Let's say we were able to help you guys move towards 100K a month, sort of a stepping stone. What would be the reason? Like, what would you do with it?
I think it would not only help us financially in a lot of ways, not only us personally and as a family, but I think that something that I've really had a passion for is help other people. As we continue to make more, obviously we'll be able to give more as well to people we come in contact with, whether it's our friends or even strangers. The idea of having an open hand, allowing that money to flow freely as opposed to hoarding it all and just turning it into something selfish, I think is something I want to gravitate more towards is the giving aspect of it. So so I think that's one huge part of it for us.
Mine would be experiences. I think instead of the stuff, I'm not as much interested in the stuff as I am life. I want to live life. So the vacations with my kids, going places, seeing things and experiencing things would be probably more what I would want to do.
No, perfect. And the reason I'm asking, because it doesn't take money to give. Gandhi was broke and he led over 200 million people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Jesus, right? So it doesn't take money to give or to lead or to be charitable. So, I hear both of you guys saying it's not so much the stuff, but there's nothing wrong with wanting stuff.
I want a little bit of stuff too.
Well, the money's going to get you the stuff, and you can give to charities, but you don't. I just don't want to confuse the issue. You don't actually need money to help people on a mass scale.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why we gotta really understand the subconscious mind needs to know very, very clearly, like, why the 100K a month.
Right.
So far, what you've described, you could do on 20K a month.
Yeah.
Makes
That's
sense?
true. Yeah.
And you don't have to answer now, but this is what we do. We dig in. We really get you to connect. Like, what would you be doing? Would you be building that little league that doesn't exist in your town? Would you start your own charity? Would you build a homeless shelter? Would you invest in real estate? Would you, right? You want to understand and paint that picture and know those answers. And so you don't have to do it now, but this is why most people stay stuck, because they honestly, number one, they don't believe they can get to 100K a month. And number two, they don't visualize it. They never make a decision that this is where they're going, you know?
Right.
It's actually very, very simple stuff when I say it, right? There's not hard concepts. Well, let me ask you this, guys. What do you think is holding you back towards, let's say, 100K a month?
I think, you really did hit the nail on the head. A lot of it is really ourselves. Ultimately, I believe that we're our own worst enemies at times. And, a lot of times there's things that either get in the way or we allow to get in the way, whether it's our own thinking or just not understanding to be more intentional about those goals. Obviously, as you're diving deeper in here, we're starting to really understand that we're not as detailed with those goals. And so the less detailed it is, the more difficult it is to visualize that. So I think you're really hitting the nail on the head on a lot of that. But yeah, just first thought, that's what I can think is maybe it's just ourselves, our own thinking, our own level that we're at. We're not really as defined on moving forward and into that next level. So
what about you, Cheri?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, no, we get that a lot. I don't know is a perfectly fine answer. Well, let's be honest, right? I mean, if you did know, you would be changing it, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So I don't know. It's fine. Scott, you're pretty much correct. It's mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's all mindset, and it's not your fault either, by the way, because they don't teach us in school, college. You can go to Harvard Business School and not learn anything about business or creation or self-image or any of this stuff. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. So there's no fault or blame. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. And then if we decide that we do want to move from where you are towards 100K a month, then we have to change, the programming. What if anything, are you guys currently studying towards 100K a month?
Say again?
I said, what if anything are you studying? It sounds like you're studying Think and Grow Rich.
Yes. Yeah. So, obviously Think and Grow Rich, a lot of the stuff that you've said, definitely the levels of income, different streams of income, multiple streams. So, that's helping us to really understand and focus on that. Obviously, we've taken steps to be able to have 1099s versus just living off a W-2 salary and claiming that on our taxes. So we're definitely, I guess, moving in the right direction, but there's certainly more that we could study on and really apply to our lives too, because we can learn it, up and down and learn it in 50 different languages, but until we actually apply it, it's not actually going to be of any use to us. So, that's something we got to do for sure.
I'm studying TikTok because I'm telling you, I'm going to get famous with that daggum pig, Brian.
I am telling you, right?
I'm not joking. That pig is going to make me some money.
I am telling you, there's so many ways to earn money. And the good thing about TikTok is we're having fun doing it too.
Right. And honestly, another thing I've looked into is an online store, like on Shopify. I'm just in the very first steps of kind of learning about that, so I'm not really sure if that's a direction I want to go down. It's looking like it has potential.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of metrics. When you're looking at anything, you want to run it through a few metrics. So what I do is I look at a couple of things. Number one, does it have the ability to get to 7 figures a month? Not with me not working. Now, don't make my metrics yours. I'm just telling you my metrics, right?
Right.
Number two, it has to be M3 income, which is not hourly. It can be hourly at first, and it can build up, like if I have to put blood, sweat, and tears into it. But at some point in a reasonable amount of time, it needs to be fairly hands-off and residual. I don't have any hourly income right now. It's all residual-based. For the most part, except for coaching. But coaching, number 3 is passion. That's what I was going to say. What I'm doing here with you guys, that's my passion. That's why I do that. There's income with it, but that's not the reason. So you want to run it through this. So the only reason to open up a Shopify store is if you find a level of passion in it.
Okay.
Right? Because we want to do what we're passionate. We want to do what's fun and what we're passionate about. I mean, you can, if you like to ride horses, well, you can earn millions of dollars doing that. Whatever you like to do, you can earn millions of dollars doing it. And when we work with somebody for 6 months and thinking the results, that's one of the things we pull out. like, what are you passionate about?
Right.
Most people never slow down long enough to say, what am I passionate about? It's like, you know what, I'm passionate about pigs. Well, great. We can raise those little guys and market them all over the world and open up franchises and sell pigs all over the world. You know what I mean? So part of what we do is we actually get you guys to stop for a minute and say, and you know, just take a look. It's like, what I really want to do. And Scott, that's what's leading you towards coaching, by the way.
Right.
Giving back, helping
absolutely.
people, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
coaching can be done all over the world over the internet. So it's also a very lucrative thing, you know?
Right, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this,
Something
guys.
that's fulfilling, for sure.
What's that, sorry?
It's something that's fulfilling, for sure. It's,
Oh,
you know,
no
it goes
question.
like beyond an income, you know?
Yes,
So,
that's my point, yep. Is to find stuff that motivates, you know?
absolutely.
The cool thing about the fire department is it's, you know, it's cutting all the, sort of providing all the things that need, and doesn't take as much time as most people's normal jobs, you know?
Right, yeah. It is positive in that aspect. And
Mm-hmm.
I certainly wouldn't be doing it for the income because it doesn't pay that great.
No, yeah, agreed.
But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other rewards in it for sure.
Yeah, there's benefits and sure. And do you guys know that Bob started off on the fire department?
I actually found out about that. Yeah, I think it was Madison had shared a Facebook Live the other day and talked about how Bob was originally a firefighter before he got involved in a lot of this. So yeah. I can see how that drive and motivation and certainly the courage to overcome your fears definitely could come into play in a lot of this. So yeah.
Oh, for Bob, it had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with courage.
Okay.
No. He was up in like backwoods Canada. They didn't even have fires.
Oh, okay.
No. The reason he got on the fire department was out of sheer laziness. He only had to work 7 days a month.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, he was when he was young. I mean, he was somewhat of he was a recluse. I mean, he was a single, you know, raised by a single mom. His parents came out of the Great Depression. Like, his environment was horrible.
Yeah.
And he dropped out of school, you know, 2 months in high school, and he went into the Navy just to avoid high school. And he kind of kicked around there to get out of there. And he had 18 jobs in 12 months. They were all bartending jobs, and he got fired for drinking all the time.
Oh, wow.
So then he's like, I got to do something here. And he stumbled into the fire department, put his application. It's a pretty cute story about that. But yeah, it was because he didn't have to work much. He can just mostly sleep.
Right.
So Bob's paradigm shift was when he met Ray Stanford. He was on the fire department, and Ray gave him the book Think and Grow Rich. And he said, he was a friend of the family. He said, Bob, what do you want? He's like, what do you mean what I want? Like, what do you want? And he's like, I don't know. I want 25,000. And back then, that's like saying 250,000.
Yeah.
Right.
And from there, he said, listen, if you do what I tell you, I can help you get what you want. He didn't even believe the guy, but the guy was a millionaire back in the 60s. So one thing led to another, and he turned into what you guys now know as Bob Proctor. But yeah, he was, you guys are far more successful, far more intelligent, far more everything than Bob was when he started in the industry that he's now in.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So it's all awareness. It's not where you are now. It's what do you want?
Right.
Makes sense.
It's an interesting story that I'd love to hear it sometime.
Yeah. Maybe what I'll do is I'll tell it on Facebook Live or something.
That'd be cool.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you know what a paradigm is? I'm sure you've heard the word, but do you know what a paradigm is?
Yes.
What is your understanding of what that is?
So, pretty much just a way that you think that directs your actions and your habits, your daily living.
Yeah, that's pretty good. What do you think, Cheri?
I agree with him. It's how your mind and your actions work together.
Yeah, so what you guys are describing is more habits, and habits are the result of a paradigm.
Okay.
Right. A habit is a physical result of a paradigm. The paradigm is just a fancy word that we use to describe a set of mental programs that are stored in your subconscious mind that are causing all of your habitual behavior.
Right.
Does that make sense? So when you're born a blank slate. You don't have a paradigm. You don't have, let me just call it programs. It's easier to say that. You don't have any programs.
Right.
You don't have the program called speaking or walking or eating or anything.
Right.
So your subconscious mind is wide open to impression. And then what happens, your environment, right? Your parents are speaking around you. Eventually you get the program called speaking. They teach you how to eat. They teach you how to walk. Those are all programs.
Mm-hmm.
And your subconscious mind is 1,000,000 times more powerful then your conscious mind is a data storage center.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And there's a reason for this, right? So consciously you can get an idea like, oh, I want to get to 100K a month, but that doesn't matter because it's not in your subconscious mind.
Right.
Right now, when we become adults, what we end up having is years and years and decades of virus code programming and limiting beliefs and a whole host of things that we don't have when we're an infant. Right? When you're an infant, you don't get embarrassed. You don't have an ego. You don't know big from small. You'll learn 8 languages just as easy as one. You don't have any limiting beliefs.
Right.
Right? And I'll give you a good example, at least as far as finances goes. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you guys?
I'll be 39 next month.
And I'm 43.
42. Okay, so Scott, you're the same age I was when I came into this information.
Thanks.
So, yeah, and the rest is
I
kind
have
of
a lot to strive for. That's some big shoes to fill. So.
Well, it just goes to show you. I mean, I was really just rowing the same boat of ignorance for 43 years. And I had superior information, right? I was a mechanical engineer. I was a solar engineer. I'd been an architect, a builder. I had superior traditional education. But like I said before, I was American broke. I was, barely cracking 6 figures at age 43,
Right.
And I just always knew there was more. I'm like, this doesn't seem right,
Right.
But let me ask you guys this. I want you guys to imagine, if you can, just close your eyes for a minute. I want you to kind of role play with me here. I want you to imagine, instead of growing up how you did with your parents, and there's nothing wrong with your parents, I want you guys to imagine instead that you grew up for the last 40 years with Warren Buffett as your father. Right? Now, I don't know Warren personally yet, and I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy, but at least financially, where do you imagine you'd be by now, being in 40 years of the environment of stock trading, global mergers and acquisitions, understanding global finance? At least financially, where do you imagine you'd be?
Making a lot more money than we do right now.
I would assume that I would take on some of that knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just think about it. You didn't choose to speak English when you were born. That was just spoken around you.
Right.
So what didn't happen is nobody was speaking finance around you. That's just a different language.
Right.
Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So when you think about it, so it has nothing to do with you. It has to do all of your environment up until now, at least. You guys are products. Same with me. We're products of our environment. The schooling, the people we're around, everything that's around us. Since we don't know how this works, we let the environment really shape us.
Right.
Now, what happens with the world's wealthiest people is we shape our environment. We flip the script. We live from the inside out.
Right.
And that's really what we do when we work with somebody and thinking results is we teach them what Bob has studied for 60 years, and we teach them to think and act and operate just like Warren Buffett or Henry Ford or Oprah Winfrey, anybody that ever succeeded at a high level. They're using this information that we teach. They may not be conscious of it, and they may not be able to teach it, but the results would say that they're using what we teach. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%.
Now, one thing I want to say to you guys is, 100K a month, that's fine, but you guys should be very proud of where you've gotten to date.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because you're doing better than most. It sounds like you have a brilliant marriage and a good, kids and family. I mean, the average salary around the world is like $11 a week. So you're even crushing that. Right. So this isn't about good or bad or big or small. This is just about, would you like to move, like for the first time in your life, would you like to move towards 100K? Because it's not an opinion. It's just a matter of following a roadmap,
Right.
And I can definitely help you get there if that's something you want to do. But the first thing we got to figure out is, the training program we have is 6 months. And as you can imagine, we can only work with so many people. So I always like to gauge if people are either wishing for a thing or committed. And the difference is most people are wishing for whatever, 100K, 50K a month, whatever that is. So they'll do whatever's convenient.
Right.
But when it becomes not convenient, they just go back to doing whatever they were doing. People that are committed, they do whatever it takes. So before we really go any further, would you guys say that you're more, kind of wishing and hoping to get to 100K, or you're committed?
100K a month?
A month, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that we would be committed to it. For sure. Whether that's something that we can actually pull the trigger on right now is the question, I guess. But
that's not showing commitment.
Well, that's true.
Well, that's what I was gonna. What you just said sounded more like a question than a statement to me.
Right.
Like I'm just listening to the tonalities in your voice, right? They kind of went up
Right.
like a question.
Right.
And it doesn't.
We want to be committed.
What's that? Sorry.
I think we want to be committed.
Well, I think everybody wants to be committed, but that's why most people don't succeed in life at a high level.
Right.
You know, I'm talking financially. Like I said, you guys are wealthy beyond your wildest dreams in every other area.
Oh yeah.
So we're just talking about finances here, but that's what most people want to do. It's like we want to be committed, you know. And I don't need you to be committed. I'm just more gauging where you guys are at, you know.
Right. Is there a dollar amount to that?
Oh yeah, of course. There's a few different things we could do, but here's the thing about that. I mean, how long do you want to live your life making decisions based on the money versus the value of the quality of your life?
That's true. Right.
That's what most people do. They look at, oh, I love that dress. What's the price tag? It's like, that's not how the 1% thinks. The way we think is, do I want it or not?
Right.
And then we make a decision, and then we figure out the money. Like Steve Jobs started with $750 in a garage.
Yeah.
So the money never matters. It just matters, do you really want to get to 100K or not?
Yeah.
And if you don't, like I said, you guys are doing well. So I don't need you to do this. And there's nothing like that. It's not a sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
But we can only work with committed people.
Right.
Right. And Scott, like I said, if you do desire to have a coaching business, these are the exact conversations you're going to have, because you're not going to want to work with people that aren't committed. You'll be wasting both your times.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. 100%.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I've come across that many times. So,
So I don't, it doesn't matter.
Time, you know?
It doesn't matter to me if you guys are committed or if you want to do it or not. I'm just asking you, are you committed or not? Or is it just, it'd be nice to happen, you know?
No, I think we are. The fact that I think we are.
Exactly. Yeah. So what's going on now is a little bit of worry and doubt, which causes fear in the subconscious, which causes anxiety in the body. Because you know that there's a decision to be made, and it's you're not used to making decisions, and neither are the masses, right? Not serious ones. But then it causes anxiety. It's a double binding message. Your spirit wants to move forward, but your paradigm wants to hold you backwards. So it causes a double binding message from your conscious to your subconscious, which is a chaotic vibration. And vibration has to express to and through the body in the physical form of anxiety.
Right.
That makes sense. So that little knot in your stomach, that's what that is.
Right.
But this is, again,
you're absolutely right. I was actually thinking about that the other night. You know, actually one of the Facebook Lives that I wanted to do was basically having faith like a child. You know, a child standing on the edge of a diving board, even though they see their mother or their father out there swimming in the deep end of the water. A lot of times they're trembling on the end of that board, and it takes overcoming themselves and that fear to jump right in. And when they do, they experience life like they've never experienced it before. But you know, sometimes taking that leap of faith is the challenging part. So,
well, it's always the challenging part, not sometimes. It's always, whether you're a 3-year-old or a 30-year-old or 70 years old, it's always the challenging part. And most people don't take the leap of faith, and that's why most people stay stuck.
Right.
So that's a very good analogy, and it's no different when you're 40 years old than when you're 3 years old or maybe 5 years old on a diving board, right?
Right, absolutely.
And it's the ones. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so then what would that commitment look like?
So what we have is it's a 6-month coaching program. It's the same thing that you'd be selling with us, by the way. This is our main level program, and it's called Thinking and Results. And it's a 6-month commitment. That's what I was asking you guys. Like, before we even talk about investment, it's like, would you be willing to commit to 6 months of your time? And let me explain what that is. It's not a lot of time, right? It's about 30 minutes a day, broken up into 15 minutes twice a day, every day. So it's made for busy people, and there's no certain time when you have to study, but it is a 6-month commitment, and it's every single day without fail.
Okay.
Even if there's a funeral, even if there's a wedding, every single day without fail.
Right.
And the reason we do that is because it teaches you willpower and discipline.
Oh,
And let's
absolutely.
be honest, like if we can't give ourselves a command to listen to a lesson twice a day, we're probably not going to get to 6 figures a month either.
Right,
It's just
right.
it's just willpower and discipline, you know. But
Absolutely.
it's not a
And you
lot of
gotta,
time. You know, it's not a lot of time. It's just like I said, it's 15 minutes twice a day. And then what we have on Monday nights is we have a mastermind group where clients come on from all over the world for an hour on Monday nights, and we mastermind the content. This is where I do my coaching and teaching and things of that nature. So it's not a big time commitment, but the reason why it's 6 months instead of a week is because we don't learn anything in a week.
right,
And that's why all these seminars and things that everybody goes to, they don't work. Tony Robbins for 3 days, it's good stuff. It amps you up, but it won't change a paradigm.
right.
The only way to change a paradigm is through the spaced repetition of content over a reasonable amount of time. So
Absolutely.
that's why and that's why I always ask people about the time commitment before the investment,
Yeah.
because it's a commitment on my part too, you know?
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, your time is valuable, just like ours. But just like I think you mentioned before, and I've known this. It's been a little bit more of a challenge, I guess, to develop one. But your morning and nightly routine.
Hmm.
How you prime yourself and prep yourself to not only get ready for the day, but to also unwind and defuse to a point that you can have not only good sleep, but be prepared for the next day as soon as you wake up, rather than taking an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours before you're even ready to tackle the day.
Yeah.
So,
No, what you're saying is exactly what we teach. It's actually the foundation of what we teach.
okay.
And this is what less than 1% of the population understands. And even what
Right.
you said there, having an hour for yourself to prepare for the day.
Right.
See, we don't prepare for the day, we create the day.
Right.
We don't wait to see what the day has for us, we create it. Right?
Yeah.
We mentally and physically prime, we get in a high vibration, we look at our calendar, and we literally create our own environment, which is,
right.
nobody does that. It's like I
Right.
said, Steve Jobs created his own environment, right? He created that donut you can see from space. You guys ever see that building?
No.
Oh, Google the Apple company. You'll see what I mean. He created a circular building that you can see from space. It's the Apple headquarters.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Google that. You'll be like, you got to be kidding me. So
Yeah.
now again, he started with $750. So money never matters.
Right.
It's just more, do you want to enhance the quality of your life? You'll always figure out the money for whatever you want, and just look around your house and look at the vehicles you drive. Whatever you want, you always figure it out. So it's never the money, it's the desire. And if you really, for once and for all, want to put a flag in the ground and have a paradigm shift and move in a whole different direction, you know?
Yeah.
No,
that makes 100% sense, because looking back on any time that we have been successful, or even really been driven, a lot of times it's in those moments of discomfort.
Oh yeah,
of
course, right?
Several years ago, when we decided, we had no income, we had really two choices to make at the time. We could either pursue going after someone that really wronged us in the legal system. So it was either justice or provision. So boiling it down and simplifying it either one word, one breath, one page really kind of helps you be more focused and driven. So yeah, no, I agree.
So did you guys chose to just kind of let that go, like let go and let God?
Yeah, pretty much.
No, that's good, because I know people, two of my friends from back in the day went through 4 and 5 year divorces. These guys were builders. They had a lot of assets. And both just so happened to be this way, both of the husbands were trying to just settle it quickly, put together a very lucrative, package, and just sort of split it and not get lawyers involved. Both of them did. And they went, and this was back around 2006, 7, and 8. And they put together like, okay, you get this house, you get, this much. It was like, 5 figures a month. This is like healthy spousal packages, both of them. Right. And both of the wives in this situation, just so happened to be this way, were like, no way. Like they went for the gusto. They were going for the gold, and they just wanted everything. And it ended up dragging out. But one was 4 years, one was 5 years. One was 80,000, the other one was 120,000. And by the end of it, the economy had completely crashed. Both of the builders had no assets. Everything went to foreclosure and liquidation, and nobody got anything.
Oh, wow.
So what you guys did is you saved time and you forgave money.
Right.
Which
Absolutely.
is yeah, and it's just peace of mind. So you guys did the right thing there. So yeah, the investment for the course would depend if one of you wanted to do it or both. As an individual, it's $11K over the 6 months. As a couple, we can, we have a discount for that. But before we get too much into that, I want you guys to think for a minute. We've been chatting for a little bit, and you clearly know who Bob Proctor is and the history of the content. What we teach is not opinion; it's the science of wealth achievement. So we don't have to wonder if this is going to work. I want you guys to imagine with me holding your hands through this content, understanding the way that like Warren Buffett processes information and how he creates. Where do you imagine you guys could be in 6 months with your careers and your income and your family and vacations and things of that nature? Where do you imagine you guys could be?
I mean, really, the possibility, I guess, could be endless, depending on what happens for sure. And obviously, too, based on our conversation now, really helping us to understand the paradigm shift is, it's a matter of what we want to create. So,
I think it depends on if we set an A, B, or a C goal.
Somebody's been studying.
That's true. That's true.
Well, there's no.
Back at you, Brian.
Well, no. Here's the thing. You can't unlearn what you know right now. You can't unlearn. There's no such thing as an A or a B goal anymore. You can't unlearn that. You can't claim ignorance. Bob really punched me in the gut with this, and don't take this personally. He said, "Listen, there's a difference between ignorance and stupidity.
Right.
Ignorance is not knowing, and you're no longer ignorant."
Right.
He says stupidity is knowing and not taking action. I'm like, ouch.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as A and B goals for you guys anymore. The purpose of a goal is to cause you to grow and stretch and think. This is why the VEED goal of getting to $500 a month in 6 months, that's not a goal. That's just a task. It's just something you already know how to do. Right?
Yeah.
Getting to, in VEED in 6 months, getting to $20K a month might be a stretch. You might not know how to do that. That would be a C-type goal. Now, we're not going to say $2 million a month in 6 months. I'm not just saying throwing stupid numbers out. But a C-type goal, it's not even to hit the goal. It's to cause you to think differently and grow and stretch, right? Let's say you did set the goal of $20K a month in 6 months in VEED, and you failed by 70%. It's still $6,000 a month instead of $500.
Right.
Yeah.
It just causes you to think differently.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not harder. It's just different.
Right.
Make sense?
Absolutely.
And that's how the wealthy people think. It's not different. It's not harder energy. It's just different. If you're thinking like my goal is 21 billion in assets by age 60, and that as soon as I set that goal, it caused me to think, well, how am I going to do that? Construction's not going to do it. Plus, I'm not even passionate about construction. So then, within a very short period of time, I thought, you know what? That happens in software all the time.
Right.
Multi-billion-dollar software companies are actually pretty easy. Now, I don't know anything about software, but I don't need to because I have this material. And all I need is an idea. So I used lesson 1 through 12. I set a goal, did a mastermind, pulled some people together, created a software company, and now we have a software company that I'm sure is going to go way up into the billions when it sells.
Nice.
That makes sense. So I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. Though I'm no better or worse. Like I said, I was rowing. You and I were rowing the same boat for 40. You were on one side, I was on the other. But yeah, no, you guys, honestly, you definitely seem like people I'd love to work with. And, I think it's something that resonates with you. Are you guys up for doing this together?
Where are we going to come up with it? I'm all for it. It's just
Sure.
Where am I going to come up with it?
Okay, well, we can help work with that. And like I said, we always want to separate money and decision. We can figure out the money, but the first thing is always decision.
I absolutely want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not the question at all.
No.
I think we both really want to be involved. Right.
Okay. So one of the things we do when we do the 11K is we take a 3K deposit and then we spread the rest of it out for 12 months. So it's not upfront, number one. Number two, what I want you to do is think like an entrepreneur. I mean, how did Steve Jobs with $750 create the Apple Corporation? And one of the things I'll tell you is he didn't spend any energy on all the ways he couldn't do it.
Right.
right? So he didn't say, oh, I don't have I don't have it in the bank, or none of that mattered. All of his energy went towards solving the problem. That's another key trait to the 1% is I don't spend any energy thinking about how I can't do something. When I say that out loud, it's like, it doesn't even make sense to do that, right?
Well, no, I mean, like I said, I think we can relate in a lot of ways just based on the experience we had a couple of years ago. We had no other choice but to figure it out and make it work, because otherwise, our family was gonna suffer in the process. So we were back up against the ropes, and we realized we had no other choice but to succeed.
So that's really good.
That's where we were driven, was to, we're not going to let this thing fail. We are going to do whatever it takes to not just provide for our family, not just survive, but thrive. We're going to come out of this. We're going to turn around for our victory and make this defeat, or what seemed like a defeat, as part of our victory in the long run. So.
Well, that's actually perfect. I'm actually glad you had that experience, because what you really need to do right now is put yourself back into that frame of mind.
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
And this is how entrepreneurs think. And I don't want to get morbid here, but I do want to cause you to think. If one of your kids was dying of a terminal illness and you needed $3,000 by the end of the week, you'd figure it out, right?
Oh yeah.
So what's the difference? Right. The only difference here is you guys are dying slowly without this information. Does that make sense? Time. Listen. Another 10 years is going to go by in a blink.
Right.
Time is the deal.
I think some of it is the fear controlling, because right now in the situation we're in, about at least half or more than half of our income's gone.
Well, I can certainly understand this, and don't take this the wrong way, but none of that matters.
Right. Yeah. You're right. You're
right. In the Great Depression, there was more millionaires and billionaires that came through and out of that than any other time in history still to date. It was the people that were thinking.
Right.
So what you're thinking of losing $3,000. What you're not thinking is the $100,000 a month you're not earning from not having this information.
Right.
So what you're really doing is losing $100,000 a month, not.
Right. But missing out on that.
You see the difference? You guys are intelligent people. There's no lack of drive or intelligence. It's not it. It's just lack of awareness.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And even $3,000, if you want to get to $100,000 a month, $3,000 is nothing, right?
Yeah.
So you have to act and feel and breathe and live like $3,000 is nothing.
You're right.
That's all it is. I mean, you get a flat screen TV for $3,000 and not think twice about it.
And what is it doing to pay you back?
Yeah, so there's another thing. If you have a flat screen, why don't you sell it?
Yeah, it's not an investment.
Right? I'm not kidding. We had one kid that worked with us. He works with us now, but he didn't before. About 8 months ago, his name's Kenny Coleman, 23 years old. He was in network marketing. He was doing like car sales and some lower ticket sales. He was earning about $2,000 a month. But this kid was hungry. He is hungry still.
Yes.
And he sold his car to work with us.
Oh, yeah, I remember you
right? Now, I'm not suggesting you guys have to sell your car, but I don't think you need to either. I actually think you could just put it on a card, or you think you have it.
Right, but the word you mentioned was hunger.
It's just desire and hunger. That's it.
Right,
Absolutely. And
absolutely.
listen, guys, full disclosure, I don't need your money. It's not about that. I'm just trying to get you guys to think.
Right. So, when do you need a decision?
Well, I mean, what we teach is decision. It's if it resonates, you do it now. If you think I'm full of shit or it doesn't resonate, then don't do it.
I don't think you are at all, Brian. I know 100% you know exactly what you're talking about, what you're doing. So that's.
But we teach decision, right? Decision is now. Henry Ford got an idea and he acted now. When I started my software company, it was a 60-second decision. It's now, because what'll happen when people say, well, let us think about it, what you're saying is, let me decide to procrastinate.
Right.
And if your intuition is telling you do it, I would do it. If it's saying don't do it, if there's red flags, that's your gut feeling though, not your paradigm, because your paradigm is chirping and saying, well, we're pretty comfortable. We don't really need this. Like we can wait 6 months. That's your programming in your paradigm.
Right.
But your intuition is your spirit. So if your intuition says do it, I would do it. If your intuition's saying, nah, we shouldn't do this, and I wouldn't do it. Does that make sense?
Right. So you're saying 3,000 down, break the rest, which a couple of you said we can talk about that.
Yep. Yeah, for a
So what would that be?
yeah, for a couple we take because it would be 22K for a couple. We can take 4K off that. We can do 18K with a 3K deposit and just break out the rest over the 12 months. Yeah. Well, here's the other thing that might help you out with this too is this is a tax write-off. You're either going to pay Uncle Sam this money or you can invest it in yourself because you're a W-2.
Right.
You're a W-2 employee.
Right.
Oh, that's right. You got 1099 now, but you still pay taxes, right?
Yeah.
So this full amount is deductible as a business write-off.
Okay.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me just open up my little portal here.
Let me transfer some money.
Well, welcome to the 1%. This is how we make decisions. We don't play games. We don't screw around. If it makes sense, I mean, I've done coaching. I've done 50K coaching programs, and it's like when it resonated, they're like, "Okay, you in?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, and it was 50K up front. I'm like, I broke out. I'm like, okay, and no, I wasn't that. I just like, what do you mean 50K up front? I'm like, yeah, but that's the way I was training with Damon John from the Shark Tank. Like, these people don't, they don't screw around. You don't want to work with them, you don't. They don't, you know what I mean? So I have an Amex, a corporate Amex, and I put it on that. But it's a write-off. I mean, I'm either going to pay it in taxes or invest it myself. So that's how I always look at investments like this.
Right. So I have a question.
Sure.
Since I'm signed up through MMA with Jay.